Thank you for watching Digital Cinema course. So people often ask the question, why would you want a prime lens? Why not just use a zoom or even a DSLR style prime of a smaller, less than purpose-built one? The reason for this is that prime lenses are purpose-built for the application at the focal length that they're at. A lot of times, zoom lenses, for example, if you zoom from one focal length to another, even if you don't do it during the shot, all lenses cannot be optimized for resolution and flare control and all of these things at a given focal length. So if you have a 24 to 100 zoom lens, the 24, the manufacturer may have optimized it for best performance at the 24 length, but when you zoom to 50, it may not be at optimal resolution and performance. By using prime lenses, the manufacturer has guaranteed or ensured that they're giving you the best possible performance they can deliver for the price at that focal length. So you're going to get better resolution, you're going to get better flare control, chromatic aberration. All these things that we are concerned with as filmmakers, you're going to get when you choose a prime lens. Another difference with zoom lenses versus prime lenses, or variable primes as some people call them, where you're not actually zooming during the shot. If you use anything that's variable, you're going to get differences in resolution and the number of elements that are in the design. A zoom lens is going to have several more optical elements, more pieces of glass, more chances for internal reflections. Anytime you add an air-to-glass surface, you're going to be causing things that the manufacturer, optical issues that the manufacturer must account for in their design. Zoom lens design technology has gotten much better over the years, but it still cannot beat a prime from the same manufacturer. So if you took one manufacturer, one zoom lens from that manufacturer and one prime lens, the prime lens is usually going to contain less optical elements, less air-to-glass surfaces, less chances for flares, reflections, increased optical performance. All of these things go into making a prime lens a better choice for pure optical quality. So we'll talk a little bit about lens selection. Lens selection is something that is very much a creative or artistic choice. There are some technical reasons why to choose different lenses, but in general it's going to be a choice that comes down to how you really want your image to appear. Obviously wider angle lenses are going to cover more area on the field, so if you're looking at field of view, so if you're looking for a wide shot, obviously a wide angle lens would be a good choice. A good medium focal length that'll cover a lot of situations is either a 35 or a 50 millimeter. This depends on your sensor size. If you have a full frame sensor, then a 50 millimeter is going to be more what your human eye is used to seeing. So if you're doing a documentary style where you want to replicate what a person would see field of view, then you're definitely going to want to choose a 50 millimeter. If you have a crop sensor or a cinema size full frame sensor, then you're going to be selecting a wider focal length like a 35, which will then become closer to the field of view of a 50 millimeter on a full frame. If you're looking for tighter shots, then a longer focal length is going to be a better choice. This is for interview work. If you're doing something close up where you're trying to show a little more intimate scene between two actors or something like this, then you're going to need to select a longer focal length. We manufacture a 75 and a 95 millimeter. There are multiple different focal lengths available in that range. 80 is a very common, 85. The idea here is that with the longer the focal length, the more exaggerated your depth of field is going to appear. If you're using a wider aperture like t2.0 or f2.8 and you want to be able to use a longer focal length lens, you're going to get more personality out of the shot. You're going to get a closer appearance to your subject, drawing it away from the background with a more shallow depth of field. You may also want to select a wide-angle lens when you're prime set. If you're looking for a wide-angle lens, the primary application of a wide, like the Schneider Cine 25mm, is to get a wider shot. The idea here is that it's going to be much harder to achieve shallow depth of field, but conversely, you will get more depth of field, which is great for any kind of steady cam operation, anything where you may have a harder time holding critical focus. Anytime you're going to do any kind of jib shots, wide angle, steady cam, anything like this, you should be using a wider angle lens. It will be much easier to control your shot with that type of lens. Another advantage of wide angle focal lenses is when you're doing handheld work or steady cam or camera stabilized work. With a wide angle lens, you're going to get a longer hyperfocal distance, which means that your depth of field will be greater. Therefore, you will not have to adjust the focus as much when you're actually doing your shot. The greater hyperfocal distance means a smaller circle of confusion, which translates into deeper depth of field and much easier to get a wider shot that's stabilized than a telephoto shot where you had less depth of field and had to control the focus much more closely. Another advantage of wide-angle lenses is when you're using a jib or a crane, it gives the appearance of much faster movement. If you're trying to pan upwards very quickly with the crane, raising it up, the jib arm will move and you will have objects coming at you much faster, and that would be a huge advantage. If you're on a telephoto shot, you'd almost not be able to tell you were moving at all. Also with dollies, wide-angle lenses are great for dolly use because you can be tracking sideways and have the same idea of movement very quickly, tracking along with the subject instead of being tight and feeling almost static. Another aspect of wide-angle lenses is that you can use them for multiple purposes, including establishing a scene. So if you use a wide-angle lens, you can give your viewer a perspective of where they are. If you had a shot where if you just cut to actors talking with a long lens, you wouldn't be able to tell where they were. But if you have a shot where it's wider, the wide-angle lens enables you to do that. Another application for wide-angle lenses is when you're trying to work in a tight space. A lot of times you're in a 20-foot by 20-foot room and there's simply nowhere to back up. And you have to be able to get a certain number of actors or subject material in the scene. So that's where a wide-angle lens comes in handy. Another advantage of wide-angle lenses is when you're handheld or doing steady cam work, that because it's wider, your frame is not as critical that your frame is on angle. If you had a much tighter shot and you had any kind of horizontal or vertical lines, let's say a telephone pole or a sidewalk, you would have to make sure that it was perfectly level. With a wide-angle lens, it's much easier to hide any kind of tilt in the camera off axis. Especially when you're handheld, a wide-angle lens is very important.
For more information, please visit our website at www.digitalcinemacourse.com.
Thank you for watching Digital Cinema Course.